But I do know that we should all more or less want the same things right now, yeah? We want interest rates to come down, don't we? Unless we're mega rich, I suppose, with no debt. Oops, like Rishi Sunak. Unless you're mega rich with no debt, you must want interest rates to come down. You certainly want inflation to come down, don't you? Regardless of how much money you've got, you'd like it to go further. That's just a good thing. We're in a strange place, though, aren't we? We're in a very strange place. Do you want to hear Rishi Sunak's top tips for dealing with rocketing interest rates and potential home repossessions?
I get that this is challenging and that's going to have an impact on me in the short term, but we've got to stick to the course, and I want people to be reassured that we've got to hold our nerve, stick to the plan, and we will get through this.
Okay, you know how often and how far I bend backwards in order to accommodate the possibility that he, in particular, and things in general aren't quite as awful as they currently appear. So, I mean, do you want to defend that on 0345 606 0973? Listen, I can hold my nerve because I'm on a 5-year fixed rate and there's still 3.5 years of it left to go. And what I'm currently paying on my mortgage is a tiny fraction of what I'd be paying if I had to renegotiate it tomorrow. Nerve held. Nerve held. You just found out that you're going up from 1 point something to 5 point something or whatever it may be. You've got to find another £1,200. How does holding your nerve help? Come with me this morning, because what we're doing is talking about a bunch of linked stuff in the hope that at the end of these contemplations, a fairly obvious question will drop out at the bottom. And I'm thinking at the moment of steering things back to that question of just how important it is that he hasn't got a clue what most people are going through. He hasn't got a clue what most people are living through. So he can hold his nerves, or nerve, singular. He can hold his nerve. That's his advice to him. That's his advice to himself, isn't it? Because he can look at the polls coming down, looking bad. He can look at interest rates being put up, inflation not coming down as quickly as he would have liked. He's not looking at his mortgage deal. He's looking at his political fortunes. That's it. So he needs to hold his nerve. So what's the advice, Rishi? Hold your nerve. What do you mean hold my nerve? I can't pay my bills with nerve. I can't phone up the building society and say, don't worry, I'm not going to be paying my mortgage this month. I'm too busy holding my nerve. But he has to hold his nerve because this is a political calculation for him, not an economic one. He is utterly unreachable by the kind of travails that almost everybody in the country, even good, very high earners, almost everybody in the country is going to be affected in some way, shape or form by this kind of situation, and he just isn't. So that's my theory on where does hold your nerve come from, and that is emerging as the possible question. And then there's the questions about him in general. This is Rishi Sunak, again yesterday, I think, talking to some IKEA workers.
Lots of politics in the past has been people promise a lot of things and then it never actually happens. I want to restore people's trust in politics by not just being honest about what we're doing and how we're doing it, but then actually delivering on the things that I say, right? So I'm not going to promise the earth, right? I'm not going to promise I can fix every single problem, but I say, look, here are my 5 priorities. I've set them out really clearly and you guys should be able to hold me to account, right? In 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half, you can kind of say, are you making progress on the things that you said you were going to make progress on? Are those the right things for the country and for my family? And then you can make a judgment about how I'm doing, right? But it's got to be about delivery, not just about talking. It's got to be actually doing things. Your grandmother needs to get her appointment, and someone else's grandmother, when something happens to them, that the ambulance comes on time, like these things need to feel like they're getting better, not worse, right? And that's what I'm about doing, and that's how you restore trust in politics. I'm a different type of politician. I want to change things so people do have trust, and that is about being honest with them and about delivering on the things you say.
I mean, it was very Brenty at the start. We just touched on that on Friday. Everyone else thinks he's like the fella out the In-Betweeners. I think there's quite a bit of David Brent there, but possibly without that, I don't know, I don't know, eagerness to please is there. You tick that box. Lack of self-awareness, you tick that box. I don't know. I think it was when he was asked about Russia, and this is from the Laura Kuenssberg programme yesterday morning on BBC One. I think this is when the wheels began to really rattle.
Prime Minister, what's happening in Russia is clearly very significant. Do you think this might be a coup against Vladimir Putin?
Well, we've been monitoring for a while now the potentially destabilising impacts of Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. We're keeping a close eye on the situation as it's evolving on the ground as we speak. We're in touch with our allies, and in fact I'll be speaking to some of them later today. But the most important thing I'd say is for all parties to be responsible and to protect civilians, and that's about as much as I can say at this moment.
The Ministry of Defence, though, has said online this morning this is the most significant threat to the Russian state in recent times. Is that right? How do you see it?
As I said, we've been monitoring for a while the potential of Russia's illegal invasion in Ukraine to be destabilising, and that's obviously you've seen the situation as it's developing. We're keeping a close eye on that. We're in touch with our allies as the situation evolves. I'll be speaking to some of them later today, and the most important thing is for all parties to behave responsibly and to protect civilian lives.
When people look at this, I mean, is it good news or bad news that Vladimir Putin's being challenged?
Again, it's an evolving situation, and I think the right thing at this juncture is for us to make sure that we're on top of it, that we're in touch with our allies, which we are, and I'll be speaking to them later today, and that we call on all parties to exercise responsibility and to protect civilian lives. I think that's the most important thing for us in the UK to be doing at this juncture.
Have you heard from President Zelensky about what's going on yet?
As I said, I'm in touch with our allies. I'll be speaking to some of them later today, as you would expect us to be coordinated on a situation like this, but it is evolving as we speak.
And just last question, if there are British citizens remaining in Moscow or in Russia, for example, we know a lot of people obviously have left, but do you have advice for British citizens in Russia at the moment while this is going on?
So we've had long-standing travel advice against travel to Russia. That's on the Foreign Office website. People should regularly check that, but it has been we've had long-standing advice advising against travel to Russia for all the obvious reasons, but people should keep checking the Foreign Office website for updates.
I mean, come on. Even if you don't want to get personal about it, just politically speaking, that's just awful. Did he answer the same question? 4 different questions with the same answer, effectively. Maybe he couldn't have done any better, but you'd have thought the interviewer might have pointed it out. Hang on a minute. You're just giving do you think anyone would have noticed? Do you remember that? Was it Morecambe and Wise or the 2 Ronnies when they went on Mastermind and gave the answer to the previous question? It must have been the 2 Ronnies. That's got Ronnie Barker written all over it. The script writing quality, the amazing wordplay, and he gave the answer to the previous question, didn't he? And it created magnificent comedy. Would anyone have noticed there? We haven't got time and we haven't got the resources, but we could cut that up, right? Cut the 4 questions and the 4 answers, and then just press a sort of randomizer button. And knit the 2 together and see if anyone would even notice. Would it make the blindest bit of difference? If you played question 1 and answer 4, would anybody have I wish we'd thought of this before. I can't do all the heavy lip. Why can't someone else come up with these wizard ideas? I wish we'd thought of that half an hour ago. Play question 1, answer 4. Play question 2, answer 1. Play question 3, answer 2. Anyway, I thought it would have been funny. So there you've got it. He's trust, honest and delivery. Sounds like something from Just Eat. And nothing like the previous fella, for whom he served as Chancellor. Remember, he came into government after Sajid Javid walked away on principle, saying, I can't be part of this. I mean, to be fair, he did come back. But he said, I can't be Chancellor if Dominic Cummings gets to pull all the strings. So he walked away, and up popped Rishi Sunak going, I'll do it. I'll be Chancellor. Don't care who pulls the strings. Hello. Hello, I'm Rishi. I'm here to deliver. And then this bit of advice here, hold your nerve. Right, I said we'd talk about various different themes, and then at the end of my ruminations, a fairly obvious question would pop out at the end. And I think we're going to go with the one that we started with. So hold your nerve. Let's hear the shorter version of the hold your... We're going clip-tastic this morning, aren't we? I quite like this. It means I can have a sip of tea every 3 or 4 minutes.
I get that this is challenging and that's going to have an impact on me in the short term, but we've got to stick to the course, and I want people to be reassured that we've got to hold our nerve, stick to the plan, and we will get through this.
Go on, just talk to me about that. What's he talking about, and how do you feel to it? You've got to hold your nerve. We've got to hold our nerve. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. How do you... But on June the 22nd, someone put up if Rishi Sunak was a contestant on Mastermind. I've just been sent the clip of it. Someone's actually done a sort of a mashup or whatever the kids call it. But that's not concerning us now. Why is he saying hold our nerve? That's what I want to know. I don't want to be told to hold my nerve. I want to have clear and concise explanations of what's going on. Why is he telling us to hold our nerve? Is it, as I suggest, because he's talking to himself? I think possibly the way to understand Rishi Sunak is to see him always as talking to himself. He's got to hold his nerve. You can't pay your mortgage by holding your nerve. You can't bring down interest rates by holding your nerve. Why is he telling us to hold our nerve? And yeah, go on. We don't do it every day. We don't do it very often. But how do you feel about having a Prime Minister who's telling you at a time of quite serious personal financial jeopardy to hold your nerve?